On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is having themselves a great day. There is so much going on in this world right now, and I tell you, it's hard to keep track of everything, and I kind of end up going down some rabbit holes today that I think are going to be really interesting. One, this whole plus, 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 and plus, plus, plus is something that's been popping up, and there's a lot of very interesting Q posts that have talked about that. There's also some great examples I've got to demonstrate some extreme levels that the deep state is willing to go through in order to accomplish their agenda. Now, on top of that, we've actually got another post that Q is sharing with us that talks about kind of how D-Class is going to actually be the undoing of the deep state, but at the same time, they're pushing ahead as quickly as they possibly can to basically accomplish what they're trying to do. And I think we've got a surprise from them coming as far as presidential. They've been hiding Biden. They've been putting him in the bunker. They've been cutting him off in the middle of sentences. They've been literally pulling him away from the microphone. The guy is definitely not going to be running for president. It's almost a for sure thing. So the question is, who is running for president? We've got a pretty solid guess that a lot of people seem to really be agreeing on that we're also going to talk about. So let's get into this. So we got some good stuff on this one. And oh yeah, I've got a fun little story at the very end of this that's very crazy and something that's finally gone public that, man, many have been talking about for years and everyone's saying you're crazy and nuts. Well, it's actually coming out. So what's going on? A lot of disclosure type things are also happening right now. So what's this plus, plus, plus thing all about? Now, I've seen it a few different ways. There's plus, and they'll do it stacked on top of each other. They'll do it side by side. They'll do it inverted, right, all over the place. So I think the best I can tell from all the stuff I've been looking into today, it seems like it represents three different things. I think what it represents, one is a timer. There's times where he's using it as a timer or a countdown or a count up, but it's sort of a timer implication. And generally, I think he shows that more from a horizontal standpoint. There is a place for sure where it seems to be indicating different ops, different operations. Two of which have already happened that we have names for. And the third one, I think they hint that it was happening at the time or is going to be happening. Again, one thing that's very common with Q is future proves past. So one thing we keep finding out as the future progresses is we then go back and look at some of these crazy posts and it starts to spark some interesting questions inside our head. And finally, one thing that's interesting, and they've referenced this frequently. So Saudi Arabia was originally part of the three-legged triangle that they were talking about, the power, the triangle of power. I don't know what the heck they called it, but basically it's what it was. So the royal family of Saud was one side. The British family, the British monarchy, was the other part. And then supposedly Washington, D.C. was the third part. So the other thing that's really interesting about a one triangle, one star, then two stars, then three stars, is that also forms a triangle. And I think it's also indicative of that. And there's a few places where I think it looks very much like a triangle. And then and if you kind of massage it a little bit, works out a little better. So anyway, going back to the very beginning, really, the first one that I saw, November 6th, 2017. This is like the first week of Q posting. Nothing is random. Everything has meaning. 3 pluses, plus, plus, plus. No one knew what the heck it means. Now it's just one of many things that seems to go together, but meh. 124, posts like right after, right? So now he's doing the triangle. 3, 2, 1, he's got the 3. So if you look at him that way, it kind of almost looks like a triangle, which, again, it was very early on, not really sure what's going on. A lot of people were asking questions, no one really knew. And then apparently they posted something else that was deleted, which I think was kind of when early on in the Q times, the board would get hacked, things would happen. There was times where they couldn't tell if it was Q or not Q and trip codes and all this. So I think this was where they started to call out some of the fact that they realized that they were going to have problems, I think, maintaining 4chan, which was the original place. So I think that some of that ties into it. But again, 3, 2, 1, we got the 3 of them making a triangle. However, I'm not sure again. Now, interesting here, 134, it's still early on. Why were the events in SA extraordinary, Saudi Arabia? Who was arrested? What will bank records provide? List names, family history, investment, ownership, stakes, and point-to-point contacts. Examples, Al-Walid Kuma BO Citicorp, U.S. controlled. Why is this relevant? House of Saud. Again, House of Saud, U.S. control. Follow the money. What power shift recently occurred? Remember, they had the whole thing with the Saudi family and firing a bunch of kings and princes and all this. They locked down the money. They had a whole bunch of crazy stuff. So was a new king appointed? I actually didn't look that up today because, frankly, there was just too many other things. I don't know. Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. Doesn't matter. One side of the triangle. This is really what got me thinking about the triangle thing again. Other sides are falling. So one side of the triangle was taken down back this point, 2017. So we lost one leg of that triangle, and then there was the two other legs, the Queen, the monarchy, and Washington, D.C. And if you think about how far we've evolved in 2+ years, the monarchy, supposedly the Queen's been kicked out. It's crazy rumors, who knows? But there's all sorts of crazy pictures there. There's questions around stuff. People have dropped out, and Prince Andrew's fallen out of sight because of all the misdoings he's done. The Epstein stuff's come out, which is definitely implicating the royal family. And then, of course, D.C., that hammer is about to fall. And we're going to hint at that here right now. I'm hinting, but I've got some more information that's going to be coming up to talk about what's going on there. Again, there's a lot that's happening. And if you start to understand how big this is, how deep this goes, and why they're willing to go to great lengths to try to keep us from finding out the truth, 2, from losing their power, and 3, I mean, this is a good versus evil thing. They really wanted to take mankind down a specific path that was slavery, that was just servitude, the whole 9 yards, and they would be the rulers, they would be the gods, and they would be the ones that we worshiped. And when I share with you who they're swapping Biden out with, you'll understand the concept of who the Savior is. It's the perfect setup for the Savior mentality. It is the perfect duo for the Savior. So again, 134. Got a couple more of these, don't worry. You have so much more than you know. So much. Future proves past. News unlocks map. So as the news happens, we will figure more and more out. So again, he has equals. Then he does the plus, the plus plus, and the plus plus plus. And here is where he references Red October, then Iron Eagle, and then the square brackets. Now, what that most likely means, or at least after spending a lot of time, because they've talked a lot about Red October, they've talked a lot about Iron Eagle. Now, I don't know if these have happened yet, or if these are the things that they've already hinted at. I think they've happened, probably. But what we've got here is plus, plus, plus is what follows. And that is the unnamed bracket. That's the unnamed operation that's currently happening, that's currently in the sites. That's what we're finding here. Again, 2018, February 7th. Where are we at relative to this? I don't know, but February 2018 is a very interesting time, February 7th, because this happened after a very interesting experience. That's going to tie in up. So I'm going to go ahead and share it right now. So this was February 7th, 2018. Saturday, January 13th, and this was 2018. We had that, I don't know if you remember, but Hawaii had this emergency alert, ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii, seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. Now, of course, Hawaii said it was a drill after a lot of people were freaked out. I think even Tulsi Gabbard might have said something at some point. But this happened Saturday, January 13th, 2018. 18. I know it doesn't say it here. I don't know if any of these do, but it does. You can fact check me on that if you'd like. But what we find there is that this happened after. So we already had that situation where a missile was shot up. And they think it was someplace over by North Korea. And again, this was early on where it seemed like, were speculated that the deep state was trying to start a war with the United States. This was back when Trump was getting friendly with Kim Jong-un. So supposedly a rogue submarine, who knows, no one knows. I'm just going to say what the conspiracy theory says, that a rogue submarine likely launched a ballistic missile, and either it was self-destructed. There's one eyewitness I read somewhere that said they saw something go up to it and then it blew up or stopped. It was some fishing boat or whatever that was off the coast of Hawaii, whatever the case is. It obviously never hit anyone. But they launched a missile, it showed up, and you know that the government very much knew about it. things like that have a habit of showing up on all sorts of radars. Russia, us, probably China, all sorts of people have satellites that are paying attention to whether or not rockets are taking off. It catches a lot of attention. So what is the operation that's happening right then, right now? Who knows? Who knows? But something unknown that we still haven't really seen a name to yet. Again, you have so much more than you know. So much, he says. Future proves past. News unlocks the map. And then once again, he's sharing all that. Military targets. And someone was asking him, hey, what's that? He said, kill box. And, someone's down here calling it military target square, yada, yada, hint on that. So again, we're still eons later. I'm reasonably sure if you look at the pattern, there's a pattern, right? Equals pattern. These things belong together, right? One of these things doesn't. 10,007, or 1,007, sorry. I'll learn my numbers. April 3rd, 2018. So again, before the second incident that I'm going to share with you here shortly, still before that, but we'd already passed the Hawaii missile incident. So we got bunker, forest, blue. Then 1, 2, right? And then 3. I see that as being more of the timer, or at least calling these out. These are these are probably code names that go along with phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. April showers. Now, was that recently April? Very well could have. A lot of people have talked about how COVID was possibly a cover or an ability to get certain troops into certain locations. A lot of speculation. A lot of people are talking about a lot of things. Do I have access to it? Can I see the satellite? Do they call me and say, hey, Dan, we got a bunch of cops that are going to be running into this place and arresting pedophiles? No, I don't find out about these things. I'm like everybody else. We're speculating, but there's a lot of very interesting information, breadcrumbs, that have been left for us. So April showers, was that this year? A lot's going on this year, and this is really what it's all about, the election, right? What's going on in November. So a lot of this is leading up to that. Now, importantly, 1264, this is still before the next incident. This is April 25th. Again, the next incident, you're like, what are you talking about? We'll get there. This is very interesting. This, again, to what lengths the deep state's willing to go. They'll shoot a nuclear missile, we found out, or suspicious of. So what we got here, another little bit, and I think this is the last one for the plus, minus, or plus stuff, but think logically, attack the world. Are the people of France to blame? No. Are the people to blame, or the ruling class, the leaders? Who's really to blame? And when you think about it, and I was talking about the deep state, and I had a friend ask me one time, who do you think the deep state is, or who's the deep state? Who are these people? Everyone just calls them or they or whatever. And I don't know. But I'll tell you what, when I think of whoever it is that owns the world's banks, probably them. It's probably those people or families that are actually on top of the banking systems. I would say that is where a lot of this us and them kind of stuff happens. So they're the ones that bribe our leaders. They're the ones that put leaders in place, Manchurian candidate, all that kind of stuff. These are deep state sponsored activities. And people get into office that are allowed to get into office. Trump wasn't supposed to get into office, and they never thought he would. They somehow managed to block the ways that they cheat. And so now here we are before the next election with them trying to come up with new ways to cheat. Now, I will say this and have faith in this, even though I think Trump's going to fight it to the bitter end, but he's preparing for it. He's wearing a mask. They've already got him on wearing a mask, saying, well, if wearing a mask is okay, then that makes everything okay. Then we can vote wearing a mask. And that is the direction he's going to end up pushing. But trust me, I'm sure they have a backup plan. If by chance they try to do mail-in voting, they'll probably be a different way, maybe online. Again, I've thought about that before. How many data points you could force somebody to have to input that would pretty much prove that they're a legal citizen that has a right to vote? And if you can do that, then yes, you can get into the site because you're on record. We've got you. Otherwise, no, you're not going to be allowed in. So it might be interesting to see the directions they go. Trust me, I do not think that it's all or nothing on this. And there's a lot of noise being made right now on the left about how horrible Trump's being for not allowing the vote by mail. So again, either A, we get new ballots that are being printed up right now that are going to be shared that the deep state doesn't know about. And so they'll have new watermarkings because they just want to make sure they're official ballots or whatever, or for this particular election. Again, there's something in the works already that's not being discussed that is the backup plan if they somehow deep state manages to create this vote by mail situation. So again, the world is connected. all or nothing. Now, there's this like Germany or something. Like this is just showing people, I think this was Ireland, sorry, IRL, I believe. Right, it's just a lot of cool stuff. Attack the world. Do you blame the ruling class, right? Apply leverage strategically, one by one. You slowly kind of work your way in. Insurgency, rise of the people, right? Instead of a world war. Anyway, a lot of stuff. It's just, I'm talking way fast, I know, but the world is connected. This is one of the key things that's going on. When they talked about digital soldiers and all this stuff, this is what's been fighting them. They had no idea how strong this movement was going to be. In fact, it's become so strong, they've actually are attacking the Q movement because of all the damage it's doing to the narrative. So the world is connected. It's all or nothing. Where we go one, we go all. And here we are. 3, 2, 1. Trust the plan. We get massive amounts of Q thank you letters from around the world every single day. The world is watching, and they truly are. And there's a lot of people that liken this to essentially if the United States falls, the world falls. It all comes down to us, patriots, all of us stopping. And other people in England and France and Canada and all of us standing up, Australia, New Zealand, all of our friends everywhere standing up and rising above what is being shown, what is holding us down, this cancel culture, this way of shaming people if you don't play the game the way they want to. So what's the thing that happened recently that's pretty gnarly? So this is the second thing that the deep state was trying to do. Now, you know they easily had a cover story for this, but interestingly, over by Seattle, Washington, there's a little island in the Puget Sound called Woodby Island, and it's got a military base on it. Well, from this skunkbayweather.com, it's just a live web stream, on June 10th, 2018, picked up a rocket missile. Basically, it's a missile, and it's not an ICBM. This is an air-to-air missile. They picked up an air-to-air missile over Seattle, and really, they were talking about this mystery. Oh, this mystery was spotted, and, well, after great debate and a lot of discussion, they fortunately finally figured out what it was. And what it was this morning, I contacted Airlift Northwest to find out if the nav lights on the helicopter were different in any way. Johnson wrote on the Skunks Bay Weather blog. I got a fairly quick response back from them after they talked with the pilot. And here's what the pilot said. They were transiting from Bremerton to Bellingham on a standard instrument flight plan, flying in the clouds with night vision goggles. The searchlight was retracted flush under the nose, but did not switch off, and was facing straight down. So that's what that is. That's a helicopter in the clouds with the light pointing straight down. That's what it looks like, right? I mean, that's what that is too. That's a light pulling straight down with some smoke, but that's just because there's clouds. That's Seattle. It rains a lot. But that's all that is. That's a helicopter in the clouds with a light pointing down. Like a fiery, rockety light, but a light. So very interesting. So we understand that that's just a helicopter. Okay, well, what other maybe coincidental things might have happened? Oh, that's right, yeah. Donald Trump throws G7 back into disarray with tweets aboard Air Force One. Well, why was he aboard Air Force One on June 10th, 2018? Where might he have been flying? Well, apparently he was hanging out with Justin Trudeau. That's the Canadian Prime Minister for those that live under rocks. And you know what? He was leaving there for the place to Singapore, which oddly is across the Pacific Ocean. So interestingly, he left Canada, apparently flew, I don't know, I'm guessing probably over Seattle or at least over the northern border of the United States, maybe in Canada, they wouldn't care. And interestingly, around the timing of when these tweets and the story came through at 5:47 a.m., not sure how that relates to 3:56 a.m., just wondering. But interestingly, within maybe an hour or so on that very same day, June 10th, Trump might have said, yeah, you buggers, and he tweeted some pretty horrible stuff that I guess he got, get pissed off Justin Trudeau a little bit. So apparently Trump was kind of flubbing his fist at the deep state. And then, this is the big tweet that he did the next day, and this is what they think was the indication that Trump was acknowledging to everybody what actually happened. The fact that I am having a meeting is a major loss for the U.S., say the haters and losers. We have our hostages, testing, research, and all missile launches have stopped. But he spelled missile wrong. And again, a lot of people say, well, some people say Trump's just an idiot, and other people say, hey, he does a lot of this stuff on purpose. This was the day after. This was June 11th, 2018, and he flew across the Pacific. I'm not sure where he crossed the date line. I forget where it's at exactly. Anyway, that being said, yeah, missile, day after, kind of throwing his thumb at him. So again, Deep State's willing to go to great lengths, apparently, and from what a lot of people are suspicious of right now, probably his life, again, is still in jeopardy, of course. I'm curious about him throwing the first pitch out, but I guess since nobody's in the stands, it makes it easy to sort of secure the place, right? Like if anybody's anywhere, I probably would detain them or certainly have someone with a very high, powerful scope attached to a very high, powerful thing pointing at them. So, we'll see how that plays out. But what's happening and what the Deep State's doing that's really fascinating is they are what Trump and them are doing, battling the Deep State, is they're doing this little thing where they release information. They actually are D-class. Now remember, they kept talking about class 1 through 99. They kept talking about how D-class is going to take down. A lot of people are like, D-class it all now, D-class it all. Again, future proofs past. Again, people are not patient enough. That's a given. Everyone knows that. But we have to be, a little bit more so. So here he's Catherine Herridge once again. Shouldn't surprise anybody. Declassified records from DNI Ratcliffe reveal FBI counterintelligence and security briefing to then candidate Trump, August 17, 2016. August 17, 2016. Trump wasn't even president yet. 17 days after the FBI Russia probe Crossfire Hurricane, according to docs, this was run through Agent Strzok. So, Agent Strzok was overseeing this, and we're going to get a great little overview of this. And they basically were doing a defense, what do they call this? A defense intelligence briefing. And defense intelligence briefings are supposed to be done to basically tell you, hey, this is other foreign countries are going to be spying on you and all this stuff, and here's what's going on. So these guys show up and basically feed him a bunch of crap. And I think the one line he says, this is what the guy said when he, quote unquote, told Trump about his counter surveillance. Said, good afternoon, gentlemen, and welcome to the FBI's New York field office. My name is Joe Pientka, he probably shouldn't even have been there, apparently. We'll find out more. And I'm a supervisory special agent of Foreign Counterintelligence Squad at the FBI's Washington field office. Prior to you receiving the classified presentations from the ODNI briefers, I will provide you with a counterintelligence and security brief that will give you a baseline on the methodology used by foreign intelligence services. Now, supposedly FIS, or Foreign Intelligence Services, is Russia, and their intelligence methods, I guess, or their intelligence agency. So, to the detriment of the United States national security, blah, blah, blah. In addition, this brief will advise you that if you are not already a target of FIS, due to the fact that you are receiving this classified briefing, you will be. So if you're not being spied on yet, because we're giving you information, you're gonna be now. That was it. That was where they told Trump, hey, yeah, no, we're spying on you. No, they didn't. So Pientka, who later questioned Flynn in January 2017, and FBI lawyer Kevin Kleinsmith, who you might remember as being the individual that changed the information on the email, and that was pretty bad. So he altered the CIA email, continued surveillance of Carter Page, and defensive briefings are designed to warn campaigns that they may be targets of foreign intelligence services. But instead of actually doing that, Pientka briefed for about 13 minutes and then writes, during the ODNI brief, Ryder actively listened for topics or questions regarding the Russian Federation. All they were doing was just sitting around and hoping to hear Trump or Flynn say something they shouldn't about Russia. So we got a really cool little article here, or interview here, that's definitely worth the listen. Check it out.
Radcliffe, within the last few hours, has just declassified the memo that describes the August 17th briefing the FBI gave President Trump back in the 2016 election. Now, the FBI had been telling us that this was a defensive briefing, but the evidence that we have today proves that this was a setup of the president and of Michael Flynn. Here's how. You'll remember that at the end of July in 2016, the FBI opened the Trump-Russia investigation. On August 8th, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were saying, no, we'll stop him. On August 15th, the insurance policy. And then August 17th is the first defensive briefing that the Trump campaign gets. And who does the FBI send? Peter Strzok, Kevin Kleinsmith, who was the lawyer that literally changed evidence before the FISA court, and Joe Pienka, who shouldn't have been there in the first place. And in that meeting, they weren't trying to warn the Trump campaign. They were literally trying to ensnare Michael Flynn. And on the documents released today, they are labeling that meeting as part of the Crossfire Razor investigation, which was the Flynn investigation. So they should have been there to protect the president from any Russian interference. Instead, they were there to frame the president and try to put pressure on Michael Flynn. This is what we've been talking about for years now, even more evidence that it's the case.
And this just goes to show how these guys are not interested. The deep state is not interested in the United States, in the people, in what's best for the people, in who we voted for. They're interested in trying to accomplish their ends. Doesn't matter what they've got to do. They will derail anything. They will steamroll anybody. It doesn't matter what has to happen. They're willing to go above and beyond the call of duty in order to ruin this country. And they had a 16-year plan that we interrupted 8 years into it. And we've undone huge amounts of what they were doing. And we've taken away large quantities of the money that they were using to do a lot of these illegal activities. In fact, we're pulling troops out of Afghanistan, which means the poppy fields are not going to be as protected anymore, are they? Interesting. That's freaking them out. Again, they don't want us pulling troops. The left, the Democrats, the ones who've always been anti-war, are no longer oddly anti-war. Eventually the people on the left will even be like, dude, our own party's trying to lead us into war. We're like anti-war, aren't we? Last I looked, the Republicans were the warmongers and the left were the ones that didn't. Well, it seems those times have changed a little bit, haven't they? Interesting. Bruno barking. Now, I don't know if you guys know this dog. He's cute. He's quite an avid tweeter. He's talking about Durham indictments. There will be a small number, but they will send shock waves throughout the political world. Timing will be Labor Day, they're saying. So, yeah, guess what? We're going to have a fun little end of summer coming. And like they said, it's going to be a hot August, because what's going to lead up to Labor Day? A good, old-fashioned, hot August. So Senator Lindsey Graham, this is post 3848, this is a while back, February 2020 of this year. Senator Lindsey Graham said half the people involved in the Russian investigation are going to jail. Now, probably a little bit hyperbolic. What he probably meant to say was half of the people involved in the Russian investigation should go to jail, but that's not what's probably going to happen. But the bottom half was instructed, 99% good. The first are going to send a shockwave. They're going to have just a few people that are going to be pretty horrible that are going to take the fall, and it's going to be public. There'll just be a few of them. But again, you guys been paying attention to some of these crazy lightning strikes we've been noticing lately? There was the one in Washington, D.C. not long ago. Then there was the one even prior in D.C. against the obelisk, right? The whatever that is over there. And then now the Statue of Liberty in New York. And again, I don't know. Every time I see it, I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just the picture. It's always got an interesting color. Like, not that normal white lightning color, but almost like, I don't know, maybe like it's coming from someplace above in a satellite, like somehow it's generated. I don't know. I have crazy thoughts sometimes, but it does seem like a weird color. I've seen quite a few lightning strikes before. They're usually more whitish, but I don't know. I mean, it could be real. Who knows? Looks really thick up here, though. Anyway, it's very cool. It's super cool. But yeah, Statue of Liberty, and oddly kind of hits it down low, too. I don't know if she was not metallic. You'd think it would have hit her up on the arm, but whatever. It's craziness. That's what's going on in that. Now, the fun story, well, first, I just want to kind of remind people. Now, everything they're talking about right now in the news, we've got the violence, we've got the protests, we've got how you need to hate each other based off race, color, creed, sex, anything else you can think of. We've got everything talking about how Orange Man, bad. Anything Donald Trump does doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. It's bad. Like, first they hated him for wearing a mask. Now they're mad at him for wearing a mask. It's like, whatever. They're giving him a hard time. Russia, 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 of course. Though they don't mention anything about China, which really it should be Russia, 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 China, China, China. I mean, everybody's trying to mess with us. And again, they're calling these federal guards that are Americans that are doing a job for America, trying to bring peace back to some of these war-torn cities that we've got right now. And we've got our politicians calling them stormtroopers, relating them to Nazi Germany. Again, what? And on top of that, we've got Pelosi talking about continuity of government and how, if they have to gas the White House to get Trump out, at least, she'll be ready to take over once that happens. So again, there's still the talk of them trying to get Trump out of office. And what's going to happen, if you think about how all the race relations are, how Biden was trying to find a strong African-American woman that could run with him, and that way they could really do well, but I don't know if they've made any real big strides on that, but it doesn't seem like it. And the reason is, and I think, mark my words, but I think what we're seeing, someone had pointed out recently how Hillary's Twitter page recently changed from her wearing a mask saying vote to now her kind of in her more presidential picture that she had when she was running in 2016. So she's altered that. And there's been a lot of discussion around how Michelle Obama is very likely going to come into play. Now, some people were saying Michelle would run for president. I think that's silly because she's got no experience. So running for president's not necessarily a good idea. But vice president, well, that would be very powerful. Now, the other side of that, if you think about, would Hillary allow someone else to be president over her, not let her be the first woman that gets to be president? Yeah, no. That individual would literally end up missing very shortly, at least seems to happen with a lot of the people that go down that path. Now, just to cover the one crazy story, but I think it's a pretty legit source that we're talking about here, folks. We've got U.S. defense officials briefed on off-world vehicles not made on this earth. Notice how they're not calling them UFOs, they're not calling them, I don't know, they've got all sorts of crazy names for them. But Senator Rubio sounds the alarm over unidentified aircraft. And yeah, we've got a task force, that's problem, I guess this unidentified aerial phenomenon task force, primarily focused on discovering whether any nation, especially enemies of the U.S., have developed cutting-edge aviation technology that could threaten the U.S. national security. Basically, what they're saying is, hey, some stuff keeps showing up above military bases. We're not 100% sure if it's off-world or if it's like Russia, China, Germany still. We don't know. And that's what's freaking them out because basically they're going, that's not ours. We know it's not ours. We know what we have. That's not us. So they're digging into it. Senator Mark Rubio, Florida Republican, who is acting chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, told CBS Miami this morning that he was concerned about the national security risk of unidentified aircraft flying over our military bases. Now, a lot of people from the disclosure side of life wanted to see disclosure just, again, happen like the Q arrests. Everyone wants to just see it happen. People aren't ready for immediate. People aren't ready for quick. People aren't ready for full-blown. People are not ready to have everyone arrested, and people are not ready to understand what crazy stuff flies around this planet. So, a lot of interesting stuff is going on in our world right now. A lot has happened this week. Trump, I think, signed an executive order today, had a big press briefing earlier. Again, a lot is in the process. The disclosing of this classified information. And this, again, it's just one more week. And again, next week, expect more of the same. Q's been quiet. He posted like 3 times, I think, after being dark for 15 days and really hasn't said much yet. So a lot is going on under the covers, if you will. It's on the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.